This is a Let's Talk Church Safety and Security microsode with your host, Paul Buckner. Hey, sheepdogs, let's talk about not creating danger. And something that was brought up during my law enforcement training at the academy. And as of the recording of this video, I'm down to 5 weeks. So I'm over 2/3 of the way through it. Praise God, I'm ready. And made a lot of great friendships and so forth, but I'm ready to be done. I'm not used to sitting in a classroom 8-9 hours a day anymore, and I'm ready to get out there with my guys. And I haven't hardly been able to do any ride-alongs or work with any of my guys, and some of them are messaging me going, man, I can't wait for you to get out here with us. I miss you. So I'm honored. But don't create danger. One of the things that one of our instructors was really hammering home, and I thought, man, this is a gold nugget that's just perfect for church safety, is don't create danger. Don't create environments where the bad guy can get to you easily. Don't create environments where you're actually putting yourself in a position where if the bad guy does something, you can get hurt because of how you positioned yourself or whatever. And so let's unpack that for a minute. Let's get some for instances. You've got somebody that is in the foyer of your church, and maybe you've got, our church has kind of a cafe area with some tables, and you walk up to them and you're having a conversation with them, and they're being really like all kinds of weird. Like it's alarming to you, some of the things they're saying and doing. As you're watching their body language, make sure that they have a clear path to the door. Don't stand directly between them and the door. The best thing that could happen, they've not taken any hostages, they're not trying to harm anyone, the best thing that could happen is they leave. So don't put yourself directly between them and the door. Stand in such a way that they've got a clear opportunity to leave. Don't, this is something John Riley talks about a lot with General Response, don't gang up on them and surround them. You can really make somebody feel intimidated. Try to use relaxed body language. Definitely don't try to escalate. Do not escalate. But if you can put a table between you and them, you're buying distance, and distance buys time. One of our instructors in our defensive tactics class says, I'm trying to buy you a moment. I'm trying to create a moment where you have a moment to get to your weapon, a moment to get back, a moment to get away from that knife, a moment to get off the X and get off to the side as they're trying to do whatever. I'm trying to buy you a moment. And I really like that, because in church safety, we need to be able to buy that moment. And so you put something between you and them if you can. Stand in such a way that you can move laterally away from them if they lunge at you suddenly. If somebody goes into a bathroom and they're deranged and crazy and no one is in the bathroom that's in danger, and that person's wrecking the bathroom, let them wreck the bathroom. You have insurance, and you can have a potluck and a bake sale and get that thing back. Losing Tom in that engagement where Tom is severely injured and ends up dying or ends up in a wheelchair because of injuries is not worth it. And so if you can buy that moment and that person goes off into that bathroom, take a step back, create a cordon, and then get law enforcement on the way. They've got the force multiplication tools, the less lethal options. They've got those that a lot of us don't have and don't carry, and get more bodies involved. That's something that our DT instructor says is get more bodies, get more people involved. And that's a really important aspect of church safety. That's an aspect of don't create danger, is don't walk all the way out to the car that's the suspicious vehicle by yourself if you can help it. Now, I have had to do it, but someone has always known I was out there. We just recently lost a guy in the church safety space that went out to check on a suspicious vehicle and got run over and killed. Nothing against that guy, nothing but respect for the heart that's willing to walk into danger and check on something. But he paid the ultimate price for his vigilance and his desire to help and protect his flock. And it's a shame. We lost a good person. When doing these things and you're approaching somebody, if you've got somebody else with you, I cannot tell you how many times in church safety, being a chaplain, working executive protection, that having one extra person with you literally provides literally provides the psychological edge that the potential bad guy needs, the person that you're approaching needs to see and hear, because a lot of people will much more happily and readily fight one person than they will two. And don't stack people up on them. Again, going back to making them feel like they're trapped and locked in, or you team up with 6 people, and everybody's got a baton in one hand and a gun in the other. I'm joking. I'm being obnoxious with how ridiculous that is. But going into that environment, you have a couple people with you and you're friendly. This goes back to something that John Riley talks about with General Response. Maybe that person doesn't like me, but they like you. And for some reason, their dad was a bald, tall, dorky-looking guy, and he was really cruel to them. And it trips a trigger with them, and they won't talk to me, but they'll talk to you. Bring a couple people going into that environment. The odds are better. Where you're creating less danger, and there's a tipping point again where you can bring too many people too close, but have people back off to the side. There's a clear avenue for them to leave, and then if it does get violent, unfortunately, if it actually goes that far, and we pray it doesn't, but if it goes south on us, then you have enough people, and you can start bringing in more bodies quickly. So don't create danger. Don't back yourself into a corner. Don't put yourself in a situation where they can take one lunging step and touch you. I was doing defensive tactics with a cadet, and he was being a lot of young would-be going to be police officers, cadets don't understand keeping reactionary gaps, and a lot of us in the church safety space really need to think about that. And being able to keep a reactionary gap and watching body language and seeing what this person's doing, and why are they acting like this, and watching their feet and seeing how they're moving. A lot of people will telegraph where they're going to go before they go. They'll target look, they'll target peek, there's another target, whatever, but they'll look at that target and they'll turn their foot. Now the target may be the door, and if they're going to lunge for the door, let them take a step back and hold your hand out. They'll think you have supernatural powers, because they won't realize that you just saw what they did. A lot of times when people want to escape an environment, they'll start to orient the lower part of their body that direction. And but don't be doing things that create danger. And a lot of times, this is another thing that our DT instructor says that I really like. He's like, there's this weird innate need for human beings to touch someone, to lay hands on them. And I know a young police officer that at the end of a foot pursuit in a fight where he captured the bad guy, on body camera, he was patting the guy because his adrenaline was so high. He patted the guy like 2 or 3 times on the back. And it was one of those situations where the officer didn't realize how much of an adrenaline rush he had, and it was kind of amusing. It was an amusing anecdote to the end of that foot pursuit. But we will do things when our adrenaline is popping. That's why you need to train with guys like John Riley with General Response. You will do things when you are getting that adrenaline rush, and say things during the adrenaline dump that you wouldn't normally. Not necessarily crude things, but just I remember watching footage the other day of a police involved shooting where a guy tried to pull a gun and kill an officer, and a civilian that was standing there goes, "Nice, nice, nice." And a lot of the public freaked out because they thought the cops said that. And they went back and listened to everything and realized it was actually the civilian that said that. In the law enforcement world, they call that an excited utterance, and that can jam us up in a civil court situation. We got to be careful what we say in those environments, and that brings us back to not creating danger. What we say in an environment. I knew of an officer years ago that he was dealing with a suicidal individual. This is chilling, and he has to live with this. And the guy said, "I'll do it, I'll kill myself," something like this. And he goes, "I bet you won't." And you hear bam. And now that officer has to live with that. If we have a tendency to shoot our mouth off, if we have a tendency to be a smart patootie, we need to maybe not be the person talking in that moment. If we can't control our mouth, which is scripturally we need to be working on, biblically we need to be in control of our mouth, be self-controlled. We can escalate, shooting our mouths off, and historically has started more wars than just about anything else. we need to be able to de-escalate and not make it worse. Oh, I bet you won't. There's 5 of us and 1 of you, Cupcake. No. How did that help? Anything at all. And so being aware in that moment to not create danger. You know, John Riley talks about our facial expressions and things that we say and do. We can actually create additional danger just by the way that we stand, by the way that we communicate with our body language. We can actually create more danger. So anyway, hopefully just thoughts like that, how we stand, how we position ourselves, if we allow an avenue for escape, what we allow the person to have access to. There's another good one. What are we allowing the threat to have access to? There's a police involved shooting where a guy basically did suicide by cop, and he pulled out some kind of a pellet gun. It was a pellet handgun, and he pulled it out and pointed at the officer. And on the way out of the restaurant, I think it was an Applebee's restaurant. This is an old video. I saw it years ago. But at the Applebee's restaurant, the officer was walking by and moved some silverware over. Well, those are force multiplication tools. If you hit me with your hand, that's gonna hurt. Bam. But if you have a fork in your hand, a spoon in your hand, a steak knife in your hand, the amount of damage that you're going to be able to apply to me is significant. So anyway, just thoughts about not giving the bad guy access to things in that moment. You can just casually pick them up and move them. So anyway, as always, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you. Remember to keep that powder dry. Keep yourself and your equipment in good shape. God bless. If you enjoyed this microsode, check out the video and audio versions of the Let's Talk Church Safety and Security podcast.